We all know anatomy is a boring subject to talk about, and most times it's not that interesting to study either. But unlike my last video on anatomy where I turned all of you guys to sleeping beauties, this video is going to be more snack-like but still effective and helpful. These are just things you can do to improve your illustrations immediately if you don't want to go through the stress of the 3 pathways I laid down for studying anatomy. Here are quick art cheats to break down anatomy and create amazing art. Number 1. Stick figure method. If you're 5 years old and above and you also have hands and legs, I'm pretty sure and confident that you can draw a compelling stick man. But if you're 4 years old and below, also without legs, don't be jealous of our dexterity, okay? Your time will come. Okay, so stick figures. Stick figures represent the bones of a person. It is basically the representation of the human skeleton. Now, hang on, chill. Don't run away. We're not going to study the human skeleton in this video. But when I talk... I'm sorry. I don't know why I laughed. Okay, but when I talk about... I'm sorry. When I talk about the stick person, I'm not talking about this stick man. I'm talking about this guy over here. You see, the problem with the first stick person is that it won't really help you when you're doing breakdowns as much as the second one will. And that is simply because it's missing some vital parts, which are the hips, the rib cage, and the shoulder, which gives us a lot of information about the pose and movement of whatever character we are trying to draw. Adding these parts helps us to know whether the hips or shoulders are sloping or leveled, so they are very useful when practicing gesture drawings as well. So basically, in summary, what we are taking note of are the head, which could be a circle or oval shape, the rib cage, the shoulder or scapula, which is where we would attach our arms, and finally the pelvis and legs. If you have this, you can always break down any reference photo you have into, something simple that your brain can handle. So if you're working on a photo like this one, for instance, you simply make that breakdown over the reference you're using and put it to the side. Or you could just eyeball the reference and break it down in your own way. Just draw what you see and don't, think too much about it. I know that's a funny thing to say, but try to enjoy this process while still taking note of the joints and how their locations or placements affect the pose or movement of the character. And always try to indicate that hip and shoulder. I first read about this method in Ben Cardwell's fantasy cartooning book. That book really helped me understand poses and how to easily break them down, even though it was stylized art. I really didn't have anything else to guide me properly, so this was better than nothing. What this method does is that it deconstructs the complexity of the characters and their poses so that you can apply it to your drawing or your own character. Simple. Number 2, simple shape method. Another thing you can do is just use simple shapes like cylinders, circles, and squares to break down your references. I know I've talked about this a lot, but what can I say? It's a helpful method. The simple shape method is quite similar to the stick figure method really, but instead of using lines to deconstruct poses or anatomy, you're using shapes, simple shapes that you are familiar with. So circles, cylinders, squares, rectangles, or if you invented a shape that will make things easier for you, you can use that too. So you start by tracing over your reference with basic shapes in a way that's easy for your mind to grasp, just like so. So circles for the head, a cylinder, square or rectangle for the neck, depending on the situation really. Notice that I'm not tracing everything exactly, I'm just trying to simplify the entire reference. If you're tracing exactly, you're making things more complex for yourself and it defeats the entire purpose of this approach. And I know I'll probably have this written on my headstone at this point, but it's really important when you're looking at drawing things from references to view them as a 3D object. Adding this little thought process to your breakdown will make the breakdown even more enjoyable and easier. Once you're done with the breakdown, the tracing actually stops here so that people don't come for your ass online. But if it's your photo and you're sexy as these references are, do whatever the hell you want. Online community be damned. Take your time with the drawing of this breakdown and don't rush. You're not proving anything to anybody, maybe yourself, but just try to enjoy the process. This approach is very beginner friendly and you can use it to draw any pose actually. But just like with everything, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So don't expect this to be perfect the first time you try it. It's also helpful with poses that involve body parts in perspective because they are presented in a more simplified light. Number 3, hands. Here's my opinion for beginners that draw from imagination. Stop. Just stop it. How can you draw water from an empty well? That's not possible. There's nothing there, just mud and angry crustaceans. Ignore the crabs and wood lice in your brain and just use references, fam. Use references. A lot of them are free. Your hands are not that terrible. Take a picture of them in the pose that you want and draw. Remember these words: when drawing hands or anything in general, you plus your imagination equals this raised to the power of 2. I'm kidding. You may actually have a good idea and you may have sketched something else, but most times what you sketched out isn't exactly what was in your mind. So what's the solution? Simple. Go online and look for references that will consolidate that idea. Very easy. All the cool kids are doing it these days, so it's not a crime. It's fine. When drawing their hands these days, I actually recommend that you view it as a 3D object. I know, in my headstone. So, break it down constructively by drawing it as a curved block and then adding cylinders for the fingers. But let's be honest, most of you don't want to do this.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Most of you don't want to do this. So what I would recommend is that since a lot of us are perverts, let's tap into that perversion and draw the shape of a man's apparatus or machinery. Anything Johnny Sin's size will do. I know it looks robotic, kind of like something Ultron would have, but he didn't have time to mess around, so we'll never know. Vision, however, So we draw a man's gear and then split it into 2 equal halves with a line. This is because the human palm and the fingers are about the same length. Draw a triangle for the thumb and then draw the fingers. Simple. So the shapes we need to know are just this and this. And the tip end is actually for the wrist joint so that we can easily attach the hands to the arm. So that's the pervert method, but if we're being PG, just use this trapezoid shape or square shape and then draw it in different positions depending on the reference you're breaking down or drawing from. Simple. We can also use the stickman method I mentioned earlier, where we draw a square, add some lines in the direction or shape of the fingers, and then finally draw the actual fingers. Simple. I hope this helped. 4. Use thumbnails. A thumbnail is basically a small version of your drawing that is made really fast, and it can really help you plan out a larger drawing. Comic book artists use this, concept artists, character artists, portrait artists for companies like Blizzard, Riot Games and the like use this. It's quite popular and it's a very useful technique because it simplifies your drawing for you before you even begin working on it, and it also filters out bad ideas and it helps to check the composition of your drawing. And like I said, it doesn't have to be detailed, just a simple sketch is more than enough. Well, that's it, people. This video, I know it was quite whelming. I didn't plan to actually add anything too complicated or complex in this video. Just wanted to give out a few tips that can actually help your illustrations while you're learning anatomy. Okay, if these methods are too simple for you and you want something a bit with a bit more kick to it, check out this anatomy video. It's a bit long, but I believe you get great value for your time. Until next time, guys, I'm John Apex, and stay creative. Peace.